Let's talk about finishing strong.
So today we have the honor of having Jordan Steffi here with us, who started the Children Deserve a Chance Foundation and has been the thought master behind Atala Recruit and the 6 pillars that we've been talking about. So when we talk about finishing strong, he will be the perfect person to ask about it. So Jordan, I'm wondering, what does it mean to finish strong?
First of all, I got to tell you, it's been really cool to listen to these podcasts. It's an honor to be on the show. Was even more fruitful to listen to the first 5. To me, finishing strong is something that sounds so obvious, and yet is something that so few actually do. When you begin something, and let's assume that it's something that's challenging, something that can't be accomplished immediately, there's oftentimes a reason why you started, right? You were inspired, maybe you started something out of frustration or anger or hurt or disappointment. But regardless, there was a lot of emotion typically at the beginning. And as you pursue something, oftentimes that emotion begins to fade. Or, in fact, you begin to feel additional emotions that are not as exciting, and in some cases, these emotions are actually not good at all. Right? You're tired. You are frustrated. You're feeling some form of pain. Right? Like these are the oftentimes the emotions that you're feeling towards the end of something, and when you start to feel those, the logical thing to do is to stop. And I think that people who win, people who accomplish, people who change, and are significant in this world, somehow find a way to get past that, and it becomes just about principle that they complete the things that they set out to accomplish.
Really good and really telling. But to me, finishing strong is about I think I've actually had a problem with finishing strong just because my intentions seem just to change over time. So it's not that I'm forgetting the reason why, it's that my intentions literally morph into something else as I might be having a little success after I started something, or I might be failing. I change my intentions deliberately in order for me to actually win, and I forget why I started in the beginning. So finishing strong, to me, it is similar. It's what we say all the time, completing one's plan with intensity and pride, but I think it's also just important to keep your intentions intact and not actually changing that first goal.
For sure. And I also think it's important to kind of look at some of the reasons why people don't finish. So I mentioned some things, and you were talking about maybe getting off track or as you're en route somewhere, kind of seeing something else and kind of then deciding to pursue that. So to me, it's like boredom also is a reason why people don't. It's not that it actually is hard. In fact, it might be that it's become so common in Atala Recruits oftentimes. And when you get to week 5 and 6, when people show up late or miss, it's oftentimes not because it's so hard. I mean, you've already done it 16 times before. It's actually that you've now taken it for granted. And that night you go to sleep and you just forget to turn your alarm on because you don't have to focus so hard like you did at the beginning. And so it's just easy to kind of drift off and fade and miss. And so I agree with you. It's definitely not just that I'm bleeding and I'm sweating and I'm in tears and it's so hard. In some cases, it could be there's just other options that then become more exciting. The challenge with that is sometimes you should pursue other things, but when it becomes a habit, you start to see people, and every couple of weeks, every couple of months, they're doing something different, and those are people who habitually just don't finish. And I think that over a period of time, unfortunately, that begins to show in a lot of areas of their life.
No, that makes a lot of sense as well, and so I can really see how I changed actually from being a extremely well-rounded. I've always been a really well-rounded person, and a lot of it comes from, I think, my parenting. I had two different parents who were the extreme opposite of each other. One, my mom was really caring and like loving and accepting and liberal. My dad was a little bit more rigid, but he was also very methodic. So I had both of both worlds, and I was just really good at a lot of things. I was good at a lot of things. I wasn't, phenomenal at one or two things. Which, if you really want to be successful and separate yourself from most of the world, you have to go deep into some things. So, I think the first time that I really finished strong was when I was applying to college. Again, and I know this always comes back, but that was my breakthrough. That's why it was amazing for me, and was why it inspired so many people, because it was the first time that I said, you know what, now this time I'm actually going to go all the way in one thing. Because it just seemed like you, Leo, I always switch it. I was like, I'm good at this. People like me. Like, I can do this. I can do that. Why should I struggle? When it starts getting hard, why should I keep on this if I know I can do so many other things? So that was always the question on my mind. Why should I keep on this when it's getting hard if I'm so good at other things too? But that's exactly where 99% of the people will do. They will get out of there when it gets hard, but that's exactly when you should keep going, right? So that's what, for me, finishing strong means. And it's that, I don't know if you've seen that cartoon, it's like two guys mining underneath like a subterranean thing, and they're like hitting the earth or whatever, the dirt, to get to like a diamond spot, like to collect diamond. And one guy is literally coming back. He's tired and he gives up because he's been doing that for so long, but literally he's 2 inches from getting to the diamonds. But the guy above him, for literally a matter of seconds, keep going on those 2 seconds, he gets to the diamonds because he just doesn't give up. So that's what finishing strong means to me, is that is the extra amount of effort that you put in that most people won't, and that little difference gives you all the rewards that no one else is getting.
True. To me, finishing strong and commitment are very closely related. So the definition of commitment is doing what you said you would do long after the emotions you said it with are gone. And listen, it's really easy to start things. You're excited about it. It is a grind to finish things. But the exciting thing is, like anything, you can build a habit of finishing. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And it just it starts to become part of your makeup. And I think that is the exciting thing about the scholars that we have a chance to work with in the program, is that these young people are building, are flexing this muscle early and often. And it will begin to differentiate them over a period of time through the rest of high school, through college, where a lot of their peers, unfortunately, who don't have this understanding and haven't had this practice. And so it's not surprising when I hear of people like Jade Grove, former scholars who are now graduating college and just have distanced themselves from their peers because they're really good in the closing minutes.
So many people just go so far into a task or start something, but then at the very, very end, somehow they rather start all over and they don't finish. So what does it mean? Why do people stop so close to the finish line?
Yeah, I think we've touched on a lot of things. The one that we haven't touched on, which I think is also reality for many, is like, for many, the finish line is a moment of truth, and they want to avoid that, right? Because there's like this judgment that happens at that point. So the further down the road that I can kick that moment of truth, because because fear of failure, because of fear of not producing something that's to the standard of ourselves or our bosses or our peers, our teachers, it just becomes easier to kind of delay that. And what I think that mindset, the flaw in that mindset is just that nothing is complete, right? even though you finish something, we talk about a reflex of excellence. There still will be ways to enhance it the next time, and so I just think that that's another reason why some people delay finishing things is because they don't want to have to face that moment of truth.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with most things, people do stop so close to the finish line because they're afraid of judgment. But there's some things that are they just continue on and they just never finish. And I think those are the hardest things to just continue to have to reinvigorate excitement, because there is some things that there just isn't any finish line. And a lot of the hardest things in life that we're going to accomplish, we have to make up these fake finish lines in order for us to like reinvigorate ourselves again. So we tell ourselves, okay, the process of getting to college, there's a bunch of different little steps. So first you got to finish your SATs, right? But once you finish that, you're still not in college. But you did finish that. So how do you invigorate that excitement, even though you finished something, but you know that your end goal is really still out there? So it just seems like we're always trying to escape Judgment Day, and on top of that, sometimes Judgment Day also never really comes, because what's the next thing right after you get to college, right? Mm-hmm. You have classes and teachers that you need to email, and you want to get to know your professors, and you want to be part of a club, and now you're searching for students on Facebook. So it's like the finish line keeps on changing and moving, and sometimes it's us that we move in, sometimes it's our circumstances. So Judgment Day, almost like once we do actually finish, we don't really feel it, especially because, as you mentioned before, we've already felt the excitement when we were getting really, really close. We get there, and now we got another finish line right away. People talk about climbing mountains all the time. We get to the top of the mountain, and then we see another one, and that's totally true. But how are we grateful for, and how are we grateful for the things we actually finished, even though we have this new mountain? I think it's important to keep in mind, because you have to, I know I have to just realize what the heck I just did in order for me to go to the next mountain.
So that's a great point. The truth is, a lot of the things that we set out to do, we oftentimes, or sometimes at least, we are doing it for recognition. We all want to be acknowledged, right? And so oftentimes people will proclaim things, and once you've proclaimed it, you get the acknowledgement for just proclaiming it. For example, a student throws out there, I want to go to University of Pennsylvania, and it gets a certain response. Well, you've got the response of, wow, oh my gosh, that's great, without doing any work. And so now I've got the response. What incentive? It's not, when I actually do it, it's not going to be much more than what I got when I said I wanted to do it. And so I think that oftentimes when people are driven for the wrong reasons, they won't finish because they've already been kind of acknowledged in the past for pursuing it. And so when it actually gets hard, they don't feel that there's going to be that much more of an incentive to complete. And so I think that's just another reason. Is that, wow, this is crazy. This is a lot more reasons than I initially was thinking. That's good.
What are your thoughts, Hector?
I'll give you another reason, Jordan. I think that people who don't finish strong had already lost their why along the challenge. And I'll explain why. Because if you know your why so strongly, there's nothing that's going to stop you. It can be as hard as it gets. If that's something that you really want to do, if that's something that really resonates with your life mission, you're not going to stop. You're just not going to stop. You're going to cry. It's going to hurt. You're going to hurt people. People are going to leave you. You're going to be alone, but you're not going to stop. So only when you really know your mission that deep, you're not going to stop. So you are going to finish strong. So I was just thinking while you guys are giving this great answers that people already had lost their battles before the finish line. So that's why they don't finish strong. when he gets to the finish line, the sacrifices are so big that they're not worth it anymore because they already lost their why. They don't remember their why anymore. They don't remember. When it's getting that close to the finish line, if you don't remember your why, you're going to give up. You're not going to finish strong. So I think that's the main reason for why a lot of people just can't finish strong, because they don't remember. How can you? How can you increase your intensity of whatever you're doing if you don't remember why? You have no why. If you have no reason to increase your strength, your resiliency, your efforts, if you have no reason to do it, why would you do it? It makes no sense for your body to do it. Your brain is going to give up.
This builds so much on what we talk about as far as the why, and I also think if their why isn't strong enough, but also it might be if they don't build enough reasons or enough whys. I think it's great to have multiple whys, right? So I also, and just to build it, I think you're spot on, right? If their why isn't strong enough, I think that's part of it. I also think that why can sometimes be fulfilled in other ways. And so it's like, well, I don't need that. I got that why a different way. And so that's why building a bunch of reasons, multiple whys. Some of them should be super selfish. Some of them should be super selfless. And when you have, when you make a bunch of cases why completing that specific task is as important to you, to your family, to your community, to others, now all of a sudden, just when one or two of them are checked off by you doing something else, you still have more reasons to continue pursuing.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense too. Absolutely. And I can see how that ties to my life, right? So when I start running with you guys, so it's one thing to run. It's easy to run when you're with another people, right? When you're someone you're running press or someone who, is just pushing you through it and it's fun because you're doing it together. Now I want to see when you're doing this thing alone. How do you behave when you're doing the hard things alone? I want to see it. Have you done it?
Yeah.
I want to ask yourself. I want to invite yourself to think about the things you've done alone. What has been your intensity on those? Because that's what it gets back to your point. If you haven't built, so when I'm running and I'm trying to do a 5-mile run, right? And then I'm still 4 laps in, and I'm like, I just can't get enough guts to do these 4 laps. So what am I going to do? So what I have done in the past, and this is real, I've told Leo about this. I imagine every lap I'm going to do is for one family member I have. So my fourth to last lap is for my sister. The third to last is for my dad. The second to last is for my mom. And the actually last one is for my grandfather who passed away, who's my biggest inspiration in my life. Now I want to see who's going to stop me from doing those 4 laps when the laps are for those people who I really care the most. I want to see who's going to stop me doing those. No one. And that's why I finished strong. And actually finished stronger than I even began. So that's what you got to do. You got to build multiple whys.
Yep.
So the first why is just because I want to be healthy. The second why is because I want my sister to look at my Runkeeper app and see how much I've been running. And then she's going to feel inspired and change her body and change her mindset. So I completely agree with you. Look at your why. Why are you doing things? That's going to help you finish strong.
I think you're absolutely right, Hector. And before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you, Jordan. Provided so much thought behind finishing strong. I mean, today is a perfect example of what finishing strong is all about. This being our last day of recruit, we started at 3:30 in the morning, and right now is 11 p.m. at night. So if you want to finish strong, remember, know your why, tell others about it, just like Hector does on the app, and then acknowledge your finishes. Any last words, Jordan?
I just want to thank you guys for taking the time. I mean, yeah, it's been a long day for all of us, but for this to be the last podcast of this series, it has been great to be a listener and super honored to now hopefully be able to add at least a couple nuggets for people to take away.
Thank you for listening, and remember, regardless of what came before or what has yet to come, what matters most right now is how you choose to respond to the challenge before you. Will you lie down or will you fight? The choice is yours, and you can choose to finish strong.